Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Matt Mikalatos, author of the young adult fantasy novel, The Crescent Stone. And I'm so pleased that today we have the author of Rival Magic, Deva Fagan, with us. Hey, Deva.
Hi, Matt.
Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
People start, as they're signing in, they typically start to sound off and let us know who's here. So if you're here for the first time, leave a comment and we'll be glad to see your name coming across the screen. So, Deva, I finished your book actually this morning. Here it is.
Thank you.
The first day that I started reading it, I have like hammock time during the summer that I go lay in the hammock. It's supposed to be half an hour a day is kind of my rule. Helps me keep like chill. And I went out and like an hour and a half later, I was almost done with the book. And I was like, oh no, I've violated the hammock time rules because it's so fun and it moves so fast. It's interesting and just so enjoyable, which we'll have plenty of time to talk about it. Oh, okay. People are starting to say hello. Here's the Scales family. Hello from the Scales family. We're very excited to hear from Ms. Fagan. Her book sounds very interesting. Rebecca Anderson Boner says, hi, Deva. Caitlin says hello.
Hi.
Kirk says, hey, happy Friday. The Scales family is also very impressed with your room and all the books. I also am impressed. I was originally doing stuff in my room that looks like that, but it's too far from the router.
Oh, no.
So I cut it in out.
Right over there.
Oh, hey, and we got a celebrity with us. Jen Reese says howdy. Hey, Jen. Good to see you again. So fun. So, Deva, we'll take questions from everybody else, but why don't you start by telling us a little bit about the book and then your journey as a writer? How did you become a writer?
Sure. Yeah, so Rival Magic, which just came out April 21st, is a middle grade fantasy about two rival apprentice girls.
I'll show the back.
Antonia and Moppe. And
I love all the characters they got on here, by the way. It was really fun seeing how many they managed to get in.
Yeah, once you read the book, you understand what all these different references are. But yes, the basic story is that Antonia and Moppe are rivals because Antonia is very book smart and doesn't necessarily have a lot of raw magical power, but she's very studious and very disciplined, whereas Moppe isn't very trained, so she doesn't have a lot of book learning, but she has a lot of raw power. And so they're sort of at odds with each other at the beginning, but eventually something dire happens and their teacher is accused of treason and they're accused of treason. And they basically have to go on the run together to solve this misunderstanding and maybe save their land along the way. And they run into all of these different scary, spooky looking creatures.
Right.
There's a sea monster and some mermaids and various other things along the way.
And that was one of the things I loved is there's so many monsters and like creatures and magic that was really fun. And also the heart of the book has a lot to do with just what does it mean to be a friend? How do you make friends? And what does a good friend act like? Which I just loved. I thought it was so well done.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that part because before this, I'd written books with friendships, but this was the first time that was sort of like the main internal story that was being told, that the heart of the book was about a friendship. And I really found that moving to me personally. It was really interesting to explore my own feelings on friendship and also just of that situation you can get into where you might have a friend who's really good at something, which I suffer from because I have a lot of really good writer friends, some of them are watching right now.
Oh, me too. Oh my gosh.
It's very easy to be like, oh, there's that tension between, comparing yourself to your friends that you do have to kind of overcome.
That's what I have this friend who I love dearly named Gene Yang. I don't know if you know Gene. He does graphic novels for young adults.
Yes.
And he's an amazing artist, an incredible writer, and he's a really good teacher and speaker. I'm like, Gene, be bad at something, please. So embarrassing that you're good at everything. And on top of it, he's like super nice. He's just really kind to everyone. I was like, oh, could you just be a jerk? So I feel good about you being bad at something. Let's see. A couple more people are saying hello. Beth, that's Dr. Awesome. She says hi. Looks like a fun book. Cynthia Vanderwerf says mom and dad. Mom and dad. Dad's there too. And then there's my sister. Happy Friday. Hello. Tell us a little bit about did you want to write your whole life? We talked to someone last week who said, so Morgan Bussey was on, and she said, nope. It was just like one day when she was, I can't remember, 30. She was like, this will be a good outlet. So how was it for you? Did you always want to write?
I always wanted to tell stories. I don't think I necessarily had the idea that I was going to be an author. And to be honest, I'm still not a full-time author. I have another job doing computer programming, which is very different. But ever since I was young, we'd go on these long car rides to visit relatives. And one of the ways that me and my brother would entertain ourselves was to draw these maps of fantasy worlds and then sort of like tell each other stories about them. And also during some of those long car rides, my mom read me The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. And so I had a very early exposure to just really valuing the idea of stories as a way that we, entertain ourselves and also bring pattern and meaning to our lives. And so I think that from that early age, I did really just love stories and being a part of telling them. And so, I brought in my example of my first story, which I have from 4th grade in this. It is here it is. The Myth of the Unicorn's Horn.
Oh, wow.
It starts, the whole world was in sorrow because Cywar, the chief god, was very sick. And it goes on to have like an adventure.
That's a pretty good start.
Yeah, I know. I was saying, I think I was in my like Welsh phase because the names are kind of Welsh at the time. So I started writing stories like that back in the 4th grade, but I didn't really get serious about like, oh, there's such a thing as an author and I could be one until after college, pretty much.
Okay.
So
that makes sense. We got a couple more people saying hello here. So Carl Eric Mickelson says hello. Brenda Stokely Love says hello. Let's see, and we're starting to get questions too. So here's one. We'll stick to your youth here.
Oh yeah.
Did you have a favorite book growing up? The Scales family.
It's hard to say just one, but I did actually think somebody might ask that question. So I brought a couple that I have a whole shelf right over here. It's my favorite bookshelf from my younger years. But so I picked 3 off of it. One is Dragon Song by Anne McCaffrey.
Okay, cool. Did you read all of the McCaffrey Dragon books?
Well,
and there's like there's tons of them, right?
Yeah.
Like
but these are my favorite, the Harper Hall books that were sort of a more younger version about Menely, who is a girl who wanted to be a harper, and there was it was hard for girls to be harpers, and so she has to sort of overcome the societal prejudice against her and stuff. And then I really loved Lloyd Alexander's Chronicles of Prydain. No, I don't actually know how you're supposed to say it.
I don't know how to say it either, but those are great books.
But they're also, I loved how these used mythology and sort of made Welsh mythology come alive in new ways and reinterpreted it.
And little Gurgi, he's like the original proto Disney sidekick.
Exactly.
Always having rumblings and grumblings and
so many good characters in that, and it's still so much of it sticks with me.
And the Horn King is kind of scary. I was scared when I first read him.
I think that's one of the great things about middle grade fiction in general, those books specifically, is that they combine humor and magic and excitement, but also serious things and scary things. And, you can deal with those things at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Wow. Okay, here's another question for you from Caitlin. She wants to know what advice you might have for any wannabe writers.
So lots of different advice. I would say for people who are younger, who are writing, like I was, starting writing when I was like 10, 12, just, keep doing it. And keep writing things. Try to finish things if you can. I mean, sometimes you won't be able to, but it's a good sort of thing to be able to prove to yourself that you can finish a story, whether it's a short story or a longer book. And then just keep working on new things and just keep writing. I think the other important thing to do is to not lose sight of reading and paying attention to what it is about the books that you read that you really love, and think about what is it that you want your books or your stories to do for people who are reading them, and see if you can find things that books you love do, and then see if you can do that with your books, and just keep doing it.
That's what I have. I have several writers that I love who I'm always like, I wish I could write as well as they do. And I'll sit down to like try to study how they do it, and suddenly discover that I'm just lost in their book again. And then I'm hard. Like, oh no, they did it again. How do they keep doing this to me?
Yeah. Also, you know, it is good to read like a lot of different things if you can too, because you know, I mostly read fantasy and science fiction when I was younger, but you know, I did read, you know, funny books or books like Beezus and Ramona, or historical books. I love the Betsy Tacy books and Anne of Green Gables, things like that. And I don't write that kind of book necessarily, but I think reading them helps. Anything you read that you enjoy can help you identify what it is that makes a book good, and apply that to your own writing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's why I think different genres have different strengths, right? Like fantasy and science fiction is going to have so much more world building.
Definitely.
And like details to make it seem real. But you look at like romance novels, and they're building novels where the human relationship is at the core. And that's something that you kind of want, whatever you're writing. So there's a lot to be learned, whatever genre you're reading.
And like thrillers or mysteries.
Keep the story moving.
And keep you guessing and engage you with wondering what's going to happen.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's nice. I always try to find, if I'm reading a genre I don't love, I'm like, what is the absolute best book in this genre that everyone says you have to read? And then I find they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a reason popular books are popular. It's like they do something right, even if they do other things wrong. They do something really, really right.
That's right. Hey, just a quick reminder, if you're watching and you're new with us, every Friday when we have an author on, I give away a copy of their book the following week. So all you have to do to enter is just like, share, or comment, whether on YouTube or on Facebook. And then I take all those, I make a big chart, and I do a random number generator and pick somebody. I'll reach out to you. So yeah, would love to get this book in your hands if you don't already have it. And actually I should say this, Deva actually has some other books too.
Oh yeah.
So so what are some of your, here it is.
Yeah, my first two books, which published actually quite a while ago, are sadly now out of print. So they're only available as used copies, but this is my third book, Circus Galacticus, which is also a middle grade novel, but it's more like a science fiction, fantastical science fiction adventure about a girl who runs away and joins an intergalactic circus.
I love that.
So that's fun. Still available.
My grandfather ran away and joined the circus when he was a kid.
Really? I didn't actually know anyone actually did that.
Yeah. Well, he told me, he didn't tell me this till he was dying, because he was worried that, you know, I'd do something like him. Not that I don't think you could run away and join the circus by the time I was a kid. Yeah. But he said he was only with them for like 2 weeks because his job was to feed the elephants, and it was so much work. So he's always bringing them water, and he's like, then they'd spray you, and then you have to go get them hay, and like he just didn't enjoy it. It was just work. So Rebecca says Deva's books are all great, and I recommend them. Good, thank you. Okay, the Scales family has a couple more questions here. Do you have a favorite character in your books? Which character is most like you, and was there a character that was harder to write?
Ooh, interesting. Okay. I will do the character that's most like me first, because that's pretty easy. So Antonia, the one who's works really hard and reads a lot and studies and prepares, is kind of like a Hermione type character, is definitely me, because I don't necessarily, I think that I don't necessarily feel a lot of the time like I necessarily have the most talent, but I do feel like I'm always willing to research something and work hard and learn. And I was always like, a straight A student, and I got really disappointed if I didn't get good grades. And so external validation was always very important to me as a kid, and it is to Antonia too. She's very, concerned about proving herself, and so that I used that part of myself, and some of my insecurities are explored by Antonia in Rival Magic. I always wished that I was more like Moppe, who's sort of like just self-confident and like she is what she is, but I was never like that.
And she doesn't even think it's a big deal when she's really good at something. She's like, oh, exactly. Was that I just did something you could never do in a million years, but it's no big deal.
Yeah. And let's see, what was the favorite character? My favorite character from here is kind of a spoiler because it's this dragon.
That was mine too. That's what I was gonna say.
I can't really talk about it without giving away stuff about the story. So anyway, if you read Rival Magic, you'll be my favorite character.
Actually, I really liked I like a lot of your creatures, but I like this little guy too.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was gonna say this character, it's like a magical white ferret called the Furtive. He was actually one of the hardest ones to write because he was trying to accomplish something in the scene that he appears in, and I needed to have him talk in a very precise way and like be able to accomplish certain sneaky things he was trying to accomplish. And so I had to think a lot about how he would interact and the kinds of things he would say to try and trick the characters into saying what they needed to say. So
yeah, that was great. That was I really enjoyed the scenes. I mean, that he was
I'm glad.
Actually, that's scary. The other kind of scary person on the cover there too. Yes, he's not quite as scary on the cover as I think they are in the book. But that was a really creepy scene actually too. Yeah. Let's see. Dr. Awesome wants to know, did anything in Rival Magic surprise you? Was there some element you didn't mean to include, but voila, there it was?
Well, actually, interestingly, the character we were just talking about, this ferret, only showed up in while I was revising it with my editor. I added in that scene because my editor said, I think it would be great if we had more magical creatures in the book and more like, sort of cool magical things. And so I just kind of like was brainstorming, what kind of weird magical thing could show up, some sort of interesting character that they can interact with. And this secret hunting ferret just came into my head. So that was definitely a surprise. I love it when that happens because it makes you feel like your book is really this like living thing.
It's alive, right?
Like using you to tell itself. So
I really enjoyed your kind of magic system too, where there's this language that the gods spoke, and magicians are basically people trying to become fluent in that language because it can change things in the world, but it's complicated. And there's like missing words and like for instance, that no one knows the word for the color purple.
Right.
And so it's like, you can't do anything. If someone's wearing a purple robe, you can't attack them with your magic.
It's hard, definitely. Yeah.
So that's really interesting. Where did that come from?
So I'm not the first person to have a magic system that did that. There's
right.
Quite a few other fantasy books that use the idea that magic is a sort of a language and you need to learn the words. But I think partly it came from me just loving words and language, and so it made a certain amount of sense. But so I'm involved in role-playing games.
Okay.
And including ones that we play live with costumes and stuff.
Oh, and really?
I help run them. And we actually had a magic system kind of like that in our game that we were developing.
Wait, you invented a game that does this?
Well, sort of. I mean, it was a collaborative effort with a bunch of other people, but so we had real people running around in the woods, like in costumes using.
So you do it live, not like in a room where you're rolling dice. No, you're like running through the woods.
Yes, I have like costumes and masks. And
what? Like no. That mask looked slightly frightening to me.
I know.
I'm easily scared by like.
Oh, sorry.
No. I mean, not like actually. I'm not crying right now, but I just mean people with animal faces don't do it for me. I don't know what it is. It scares me.
So
that's
so
amazing.
it's sort of part of my whole just like creative milieu, I guess.
That's really fun.
You know,
how
I hang out with a lot of people who talk about how can we do magic in a cool way that would be fun to like figure out as a puzzle. And so
well, I think part of what I loved about it is that you did it in a way that was really simple. You could tell what was happening.
Yeah.
And you weren't writing out like gigantic nonsense sentences. You did it in a way that was really elegant, I thought.
Thank you.
And the way you played around with it was really fun. And you saw some of the consequences of that kind of magic and like what would be valued and how you could lose magic and gain magic. And I thought it was really well done.
How valuable it is just to learn a single word because suddenly you can do something no one else can. Yeah. I love that idea that words become like precious, like they're the treasure that you want to have.
And I really liked it. It did make me stop and think, and I don't want to spoil anything, but there is a moment where you stop and think about words that really matter to you personally.
Yes.
And what it could look like to never be able to say that word again. Like that's a wow. Yeah, that's a really interesting thought.
Oh, I'm really glad that you said that because that was exactly how I ideally would want a reader to react to the scene you're talking about and to the book in general. So, yay.
Yeah, which I thought was great. And there's also let's see. Is this a spoiler? Let me think about it before I ask this.
Spoiler alert.
I think it's a minor spoiler.
Okay.
There's a word that one of the magicians learns early on that we don't know what it is. And they can't figure out how to use it.
Right.
And I was like racing ahead the whole book, trying to figure out what could this word be?
Yeah.
How is it used? What would I be trying? And then you completely surprised me at the end. I had no idea. I thought it was going to be a word. Well, I don't want to say what I thought it was.
Well, actually, I will tell you something. That word actually was a different word in the original draft.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. And later on, we decided it was actually, I think, my agent, Hannah, who's brilliant, who said, I think there's a better way we could use what she learns at the beginning in the end to make it all tie together better with Antonia and Moppe and them working together. And so that part actually did change. So maybe that's why it surprised you because it wasn't my first instinct. It was actually like my third instinct.
I think it was more, I was thinking of something much, much larger, kind of more powerful. No one will ever be able to stop you for the rest of your life kind of thing. And it is something powerful, but it was really unexpected for me.
Yeah. Good.
So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I love it when a book surprises me. And that was definitely a surprise.
Yeah. I do too, even when I'm writing them. like the question. That is one of the best parts of writing.
Yes, for sure. Brenda says that she finds the language angle really fascinating.
I love language.
So, yeah, that's great. So, wow. Okay. So, can I ask you? Is it okay to ask you what you're working on right now? Like usually when our new book comes out, we're already on to the next thing.
Yeah. So I actually have another book that's actually, I'm waiting right now for copy edits, the last sort of chance to make changes. And that book is going to be coming out currently it's scheduled to come out next April, but I don't know if the schedule might get delayed because of things. But that's another middle grade fantasy called Nightingale that's about a thief girl who accidentally steals a magic sword that then chooses her as the chosen hero of the land. And she steals it from the prince, who is the one who was trying to use it because he wanted to be the champion, but now she's the champion, and so he's her sidekick, basically. So, and they have to like right injustice.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Okay, and I should mention, actually, I think that really brought out some of your humor, and there's actually a lot of humor in Rival Magic. There are a lot of funny moments. Yeah, really. Well, this isn't a spoiler at all, but the young magician who's so serious, her master makes her practice on turnips, which she just hates, and becomes this kind of running gag throughout the book. That was really funny.
They did a great job. They put turnips all over the book too. There's a little dancing turnip on the spine.
Yeah. Looks like Jen's ready to read. She says, "I'm going to read that book right now." Well, Jen, I know you have Deva's email, so. Yeah. So, that's exciting. That book sounds really fun. Wow.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So I know, I got to the end of Rival Magic and it's a standalone book, but my first thought was, I would love to catch up with these girls a year from now and see what's going on. Like, is that on the table? Are you thinking about a second book?
So the way that, this is one of those things that authors don't necessarily have a lot of control over unless they're self-publishing. So for me, I wouldn't really, it's sort of based on how well Rival Magic does and whether my publisher thought that there would be enough demand for a second book. Because the thing about series is that no one reads the second book in a series unless they've read the first. So like your population of people who are going to buy the book is always going to be less than the first book pretty much.
Right. Well, and sometimes the second book comes out and it drives sales for the first book.
A bit,
So,
but
the answer is business will tell us whether.
So if lots of people, so all of you run out and buy it. And
that's right.
About it.
Yes, do it as a favor to me so I can read the second one.
I do always kind of have those ideas in the back of my head of what will happen later, and I do have a few notes sketched out for what I would do if somebody asked me to write a sequel, but it's not really my choice, unless I suddenly became independently wealthy and just write books.
There you go. That's who
that's
knows?
The other option.
Comes for everyone in time. Okay, the Scales family wants to know, are there any middle grade novels from other authors that you would recommend?
I would happily. I even brought props.
You're so prepared.
Yes. So I read most of my books on
the Kindle
e-reader. So the one I just finished, I don't know if you can see it. A Wish in the Dark by Christina Soontornvat.
Okay.
Is a middle grade fantasy novel. It's set in a sort of a fantasy version of Thailand.
Oh, cool.
And it's slightly based on Les Miserables.
Oh, interesting.
So it's all about justice and vengeance, but kid-friendly version of them. And so it's really wonderful how it's explores these, again, like I said before, these serious themes, but in an approachable, meaningful way. And it's very uplifting in the end and just a very beautiful book. So I highly recommend that. Christina Soontornvat, A Wish in the Dark. And then I have two others. A Dog-Friendly Town by Josephine Cameron. She's actually another Maine author. I'm from Maine, and we're doing an event in a little while, so I got a chance to read an early copy. This book comes out in, I think it's coming out in August now. It got bumped because of the pandemic, but it's a mystery novel set in a dog-friendly town in California where there's a theft in the dog-friendly bed and breakfast that's run by the main character's parents. And one of my favorite things is how there's all these great illustrations at the beginning of all of the different characters and their dogs.
That's fun.
And so if you like dogs and you like mysteries, I recommend that. And then lastly, and this is kind of funny because she's a friend of mine and she's watching right now, but Rebecca, R.J. Anderson, I had this prepared. This is actually the UK edition of one of her books, Swift, which is very, very glittery, but maybe you can see the very cool fairy on the
cover.
But she has this whole series. They're little more YA edge upper, but I think people who like Rival Magic would probably enjoy them, but also slightly older readers. They're being republished in the US and along with the third book in the trilogy by Enclave later, I think in August. And they've got really cool new US covers that are even more beautiful. Nice. But I don't have that in physical form, so I can't show you. But R.J. Anderson's Swift is the first one, and she has actually another series. Knife is the first book in her other series, but it's about the fairies too. It's just a really delightful, old-fashioned but modern fairy tale sort of fantasy setting. It's in the real world, but there are fairies and spriggans and pixies and all sorts of other fantastical entities that live sort of secretly on the side of society, and it's about all of their interactions and adventures and stuff, and they're just very
really fun.
Beautifully written and fun, and so
Rebecca is thankful.
So yes, so look for them being coming out.
That's really fun. Deva, I know we have your website on here, devafagan.com. Where else can people reach out to you if they want to chat about your books?
Well, I'm on Twitter and Instagram, and there I think are links to both of those on my website. It's I'm at Deva Fagan, and I think I'm at Deva Ray Fagan on RAE, my middle name, on Instagram. But all of the links should be off my website. But
okay, cool.
But I'm there and happy to have people reach out and chat about books, recommend other books.
Awesome.
Talk about writing.
Oh, thank you, Deva. It's been so great having you. And thanks to everybody for tuning in. Next week, we're going to have Daring Darlene, Queen of the Screen by Ann Nesbitt, which I'm starting tonight. But there are so many amazing reviews of this book.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of a historical fiction.
All of the stars.
Yeah,
Anne is a wonderful person, and I hope that everyone will come and watch the show next week because she's very, very good, and her books are great. I have plenty of them on my shelves, and I actually have Daring Darlene on my Kindle waiting.
On the Kindle. There you go. Well, hey, everybody, reach out to Deva and let her know that you enjoyed the conversation. Her book, of course, there it is, Rival Magic. As you've seen, it's delightful. You will enjoy it. It's so fun. It's funny. It's interesting. And I think it says I was actually really moved by the conversation about friendship in it. It made me think of my good friends. And even think of some friends I haven't connected with in a while and go you know what? This is the kind of friendship we have. I should reach out again. It's been a while.
Yay.
So, thanks so much, Deva. Any final words for the crowd here?
No, just stay safe and wash your hands.
I will echo that.
And read books.
That's perfect. All right. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe and have a great weekend. And yes, please do wash your